Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are the Idaho Trails Association. We are in the business of maintaining Idaho's non-motorized hiking trails. And tonight, we're going to have Brad Smith presenting on our new and exciting trail scouting program. Brad is not only a longtime volunteer, but was a original co-founder of the Idaho Trails Association 14 years ago. So we've come a long way since then. And he lives up in the Sandpoint area. And with that, I'm going to just go ahead and let him turn over to him. And just one housekeeping thing, if you have questions, there is a Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. If you want to just type any questions that you have in that Q&A, we'll be sure to get answers for that. So with that, Brad, I'm going to just let you take over.
Great. Thank you, Pam, and welcome everybody tonight. Super excited to talk about the Idaho Trails Association's new trail scouting program. It's a really new and exciting way that you can volunteer for ITA and help us out with Idaho's hiking trails. So the purpose of this program is really to help us with a few different things. One is to help us collect information about the location and the condition of some of the hiking trails we have here in Idaho, which then helps us identify trail maintenance needs. But we can also use this information for other purposes. If you've ever bought the Forest Service maps for the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness, then you know that these maps were published in 1984. They're almost as old as I am. And so at this point, they're really outdated. And some of the trails on that map, on these maps no longer exist, or they may be shown in the wrong location. And so this is a program that will help us, identify using a GPS and some other simple tools, the locations of those trails, and also the condition of those trails. And then we can use that information to produce new trail maps that are up to date and accurate. This is the first ever map produced and published by the Idaho Trails Association. It's for the north half of the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness. You can buy this map on the Idaho Trails Association website at idahotrailsassociation.org. And hopefully by the end of the year, we will also produce and publish a map for the south half of the Frank and potentially other areas beyond that in the future. So in order to do this program, you don't need a whole lot. You really just need a few simple things. So you'll need a multi-band GPS unit, and I'll talk about multi-band GPS units. You'll need enough batteries to power your device. You'll need a trail data form, which is available on the Idaho Trails Association website for download. You'll need a ballpoint pen or a pencil. We don't want any felt pens or anything that will bleed if the form gets wet. You can bring a clipboard. That's optional. It's not mandatory. Of course, your backpacking or hiking gear. And then we certainly encourage you to go with a partner for safety and just to have some good company while you're out on the trail. So as I mentioned, you really need a multi-band GPS unit for this project. This is the Garmin GPS Map 65S. These multi-band units are relatively new on the market, but why these are important compared to standard GPS units is they're more accurate in sort of mountainous terrain. Standard GPS units are just fine when you're in an area with gentle terrain, but when you're in the mountainous regions of Idaho, these are super important because if you're down in a deep canyon, your GPS can actually lose satellite signals and then your GPS track will go off course. These multi-band units, they're capable of leveraging more signals and then sort of disconnecting from signals that might be bouncing off canyon walls and causing inaccuracies. So we really urge volunteers to use these multi-band units. Garmin seems to have the only units on the market presently, but there's about 5 or 6 units that they have produced. And, for volunteers that don't have a multi-band unit, ITA does have 2 of them to loan out for this program. If you have questions about the capabilities of your own device, or perhaps you've come across a new multi-band unit that's on the market, you can always consult with us on your unit and whether it will work for this project. So this year for this project, we're really focusing our efforts on the southwest corner of the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness area. The reason we're doing that is, as I mentioned, the Forest Service maps for the Frank are really outdated. Even the GIS data that's available from the Forest Service can be inaccurate. So we want to send volunteers out to GPS these trails, document the condition of these trails so that we can produce accurate maps and identify trail maintenance needs. So to get yourself started, the first thing you'll want to do is go to the Idaho Trails Association website. And if you go to the top of the page and you click on Get Involved, you'll see a drop-down menu. If you scroll down and select the Trail Reporter, this is where you can find our focal trails. And of course, the Trail Reporter also is a really important tool on the ITA website for anyone who's out hiking and wants to report current trail conditions to ITA, and then these are illustrated on a map. Anyone can do this, but if you're specifically interested in the trail scouting program, then you'll want to go here too to find a trail to scout. In order to do that, you can click on Current Trail Reports. And then if you accept the disclaimer, you'll get a web-based GIS map. And you can see on this map that it has national forest lands as well as designated wilderness areas. And here you can see this dark green polygon here in central Idaho is the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness. Down here in the southwest corner of the Frank, all of these yellow trails are the focal trails that we are asking volunteers to scout this year. You can zoom in on these trails. And then when it comes into focus, you can select one of them. You'll get a call out and it'll tell you the name of the trail, the length of the trail. And then if you're interested in scouting this, you can actually email ITA and let us know that you're interested in scouting this particular trail. So once you've chosen your focal trail or trails, then you can contact us at trails@idahotrailsassociation.org, and we'll work with you to make sure that you can get what you need in terms of support for going out and scouting this trail. And then this year in our focal area, we're hoping to scout a total of 370 miles. That's quite a bit, but hopefully many of you will sign up with us to do this, and hopefully we can scout all those trails this year. So after you've picked a trail, then you'll go out to your trail. When you get to your trailhead, you're going to want to turn on your GPS device and establish your satellite connections. And then you need to make sure that your GPS has the proper settings for this program. One of the really important settings that needs to be set on your GPS device is to have your GPS tracks record using a distance interval as opposed to a time interval. This is a really important point. Time interval, basically how that works is your GPS will record a point every certain amount of time, whatever time interval that GPS unit is set to, regardless of whether you're moving or not. And if you're in a time interval and you stop, then your GPS will keep recording points in and around your location and will actually get really messy data. And I call it a bird's nest. If you download the GPS track, it'll actually look like a bird's nest because that GPS unit keeps pinging points in and around you. And so that causes us to have to do a lot of data cleanup on the back end. Whereas if you set it as a distance interval recording method, then your GPS will only record the next point along your track when you go the distance that you specify. So the distance that we want our GPS to record the next point on the track is 0.1 miles, which is also approximately 50 feet or 15 meters. The other two important settings are your datum and your projection. So you want to set this to North American datum of 1983 and UTM zone 11 north, which covers most of Idaho. This ensures that when we download the data, it's not showing in the wrong location. That's the datum and the projection that we use in our systems. And then before you begin your hike, of course, you want to turn your GPS track logging and recording function on. If you're walking down the trail and your recording function is not on, then it will not record a GPS track. Then you also, before you head out down the trail, you want to record a few things in your trail data form. So the first things you're going to want to record are your name and your contact information in section 1 of the trail data form. So if I go to my trail data form, this is section 1 right here. So I can type in my name. Well, if I'm in the field, I'm going to be writing this down. My phone number in case ITA needs to get in touch with you to ask any questions about your scouting work, and then an email address in case we need to get in contact with you that way. So the next thing you want to do at the trailhead is look for any signage that tells you about what uses are allowed on this trail. And also just anything in terms of the name of the trail, if the trail has a number. Here you can see this is the Smith Creek Trail. If you look at the sign, you can see that hiking and horseback riding are allowed, but mountain biking and motorized vehicles are not allowed. So I'm going to record this information in sections 2 and 3 of the trail data form. So if I go to my form, I can go down here to section 2. I'm going to put in Smith Creek for the trail name. It was trail 17, so I'm going to put that in there. And then in section 3 here, I'm going to select the uses that are allowed on that trail. So in this case, hiking and stock use were allowed. None of these other uses were allowed, so I'm not going to check those boxes. Sometimes you'll come up on a trail and find out that certain types of uses are only allowed for a part of the year. So like if stock use was only allowed, if the sign said that stock use is only allowed July 1st through July 30th, then I would say stock use allowed July 1st through July 30th only. And same with any of these other uses. If there's no information posted at the trailhead, then you can look at other sources of information like Forest Service maps, motor vehicle use maps, or the things like that. But ideally, there will be information posted at the trailhead. And we want to make sure that that information is verified and accurate. And usually at the trailhead, that's the most accurate information. Sometimes information on maps isn't always up to date, and that's why we really want you to check at trailheads to see what kind of signage is posted. Okay, and then before you start off down the trail, we want you to mark a waypoint at your trailhead and record that in section 5 of the trail data form. So if I go to the trail data form, my starting waypoint was waypoint 37, and that was the trailhead for my trail. And as you hike along the trail, we also want you to record waypoints for other features of interest, such as intersections or junctions with other trails, footbridges like this, stock bridges. Maybe you come upon a ranger station or a lookout tower. Also, in terms of trail maintenance needs that we want to identify, if you find a big blowdown or a big log across the trail, or a section maybe has washed out and slid down into the creek, record waypoints at those locations too, and also mark these in section 5 of your trail data form. So if I go to my trail data form, let's say at waypoint 38, I came upon a big blowdown. So I would put other, and then for the description, I would say something like giant blowdown. And then the last thing you want to do is record the endpoint, record a waypoint at the end of your trail segment that you're scouting. So again, I'd go to my trail data form, say I end at waypoint 39, and then I'm going to select end of trail. And then when you get to the endpoint, make sure to turn that track logging function off so that you're not continuing to record GPS points or waste any of your battery power. So the last thing that we need you to do is to basically record some general observations about each of the trail segments you did. It may be that you're just doing a single out and back trail, but maybe you're doing a loop or something, and along that loop, there were intersections with other trails or something like that. And so we want to describe some general observations about each trail segment. And so when we talk about a trail segment, we're really talking about a section of trail either between a trailhead and its endpoint, or a section of trail between a trailhead and the junction with another trail, or a section of trail between two other trail junctions. So looking at this, you can see in this example that I have a trail segment that starts on, the trailhead starts at waypoint 28, and then there's a junction here at waypoint 28/308. So if I go to my trail data form, I can record that and say my starting waypoint was 28 and my ending point was 28/308. And while I was hiking that trail, let's say I observed that sections of the trail were missing. Or maybe there was a lot of brush. So I would record those types of observations here in section 4 of the trail data form. Then when you're done and you get home, you can basically just email all this stuff to ITA. You can download your GPS tracks and waypoints in GPX format, put them in an email and send them to trails@idahotrailsassociation.org. And same with your forms. You can scan those with a scanner. You can photograph them with your cell phone, whatever is easiest for you. And then just email that to trails@idahotrailsassociation.org. It's that simple. So all the data and information that you'll need for this project is available on the Idaho Trails Association website at this link. I'm also going to show you how you can navigate to this directly from the homepage. So if I type in Idaho Trails Association.org, and then here on the homepage, if you go to Get Involved, scroll down to Trail Scouting Program. On this section of the website, you'll find all the information you need to volunteer for this program, including how you can sign up, the materials that you'll need, the types of multi-band GPS units that we know of that are currently on the market, the device settings that you want to set on your GPS. And we also have links to the trail reporter. The trail data form is here for download and printing, as well as other information. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, so I see one question here. Do Garmin InReach models have multi-band capabilities?
That is a frequent question that I get. So thank you for asking that. The InReach units are not really designed for this kind of a program. The InReach units are designed for basically two-way satellite communication in the backcountry. And although they do record, are capable of recording waypoints and tracks, they do not record with the accuracy that we need for this program. So hopefully one day Garmin will come up with an InReach unit that will have that capability. But for the moment, unfortunately, they do not have that capability.
Good question. Let's see. So, okay, Larry Callister, you have your hand raised. If you have a question, could you put it in the question and answer? Okay. I have a question here. Aaron Olson, do you have any pro deals available to reduce cost of GPS unit?
That would be a question for ITA.
Yeah. Kelly? I don't know the answer to that either.
Yeah, not that I know of. But that's something to look into.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really good idea.
Again, though, we do have 2 units that we can loan out. And even though I'm based in Sandpoint, I can make arrangements to have those loaner units mailed to volunteers with a return label to mail back to us when they're done. I should also mention that we will have prizes for volunteers at the end of the season. I'm thinking maybe volunteers that hike the most miles or maybe have the most elevation gained. We'll figure it out, but there will be some prizes at the end of the season.
Okay. Let's see. Josh Unger asked, is there a Google Doc link so we can fill out the form on our phones?
I think we could make that available. Currently, there's a PDF version posted to the website, but I don't see why we couldn't do a Google Doc version.
Yeah. Let's see. Jim Stark asked, do the Fortrex wrist units work?
Ah, good question. I actually meant to cover that in the presentation. So we are not using, we're not accepting data from wristwatches or cell phones because, again, they lack the accuracy that we need for this program.
Larry, how do I tell what sort of Garmin I have? Mine is a dog tracking collars, but I know it also tracks the human handheld unit. That makes sense.
Don't have a quick answer for that, except that you could download Garmin Basecamp to your computer and plug your device into your computer and potentially identify it that way.
Okay. Hey, that's all the questions I see.
Okay. Well, again, thanks to everyone that tuned in tonight. I'm super excited about this program. And if there are more questions, you can always email us at trails@idahotrailsassociation.org, and we'll get you the answers that you need.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm going to make a shameless plug for just the trail reporter. you're just out hiking wherever, if you take some notes about especially trail maintenance that needs to be needed, if you go out to the trail reporter, you can submit just a general observation about any trail that you're hiking on, and we would greatly appreciate any of that information as well. Okay, well, with that, I think we are going to wrap up for the night. Thanks again for everybody who showed up, and have a good rest of your evening. Thanks, Brad.
My pleasure.